Hi, I'm Diana Montford, the world's first transgender television journalist. Born male, became female, and we are starting a new monthly feature starting now. It's called The Triad. We are three transgender women, and we will be discussing all things transgender. And the other two members of the Triad are, in alphabetical order, transgender activist and feminist activist, Ms. Cathryn Platine.
Hi there.
And New York State politician and attorney, Ms. Joann Prinzivalli. Hi there.
Hello,
Joann.
everybody. Yeah, I'm here.
And I'm Diana Montford. Okay, now, recently, very recently as we shoot this, last week, Florida passed a law forbidding transgender care for adult trans people. That is a disgrace. Let's discuss this. Joann, you're an attorney. How constitutional is this?
Sure. Well, the first thing is that the law was actually passed a while back. It's subject of litigation in federal court. So back in April, the families of the children. This is also about children as well as adults. The statute. The families of the children sought an emergency ruling to allow their kids to continue to get care. Now, what I understand from the appellate decision, and I really don't know whether it's true or not, because this is from the court and composed of evil people. They indicated that the law provides that if an adult or a child is already receiving care, they can continue to receive that care. If that's the case, then the plaintiffs don't actually have standing because their children had already been receiving care. So this doesn't make any sense. However, they tried to seek an emergency ruling. Then later on, they added some adult plaintiffs so that it would also cover the adults as well as the kids. Now, in June, so basically in June they issued their injunction. In July they added the adult plaintiffs, and then the appeal was taken by the state, and it went to the circuit court, the 11th Circuit, which is pretty much the most conservative circuit in the country. And it was a split decision despite that. And this is only a temporary. They revoked the stay. So the district court issued a stay saying, Florida, you cannot enforce this law until we've had a chance to have our hearing. And the circuit court said, no, Florida should be able to enforce its law because this is only going to affect people who have not started treatment yet. And they're expediting the hearing. The hearing on the merits is actually going to come in the district court in October. So this is going to be a topic going forward. The dissent anyway, this is just the background. We can talk about the ruling, etc. But the thing is that basically, if you haven't started on hormones or hormone blockers or whatever, you won't be able to start. Maybe never in Florida. But if you're already receiving care, you should still be able to receive care. That doesn't mean that they won't amend the law later to stop it, but it's still very distressing that they're interfering with people's right to receive medical care.
Now, how is this constitutional? This clearly discriminates against a certain group. It flies in the face of received medical opinion. How can they presume, without any medical training, to couch this in moral, not medical terms? How can they do this? And how is it possible that in the United States of America, land of the free, they can do this?
Okay,
Well,
first of all, it's
yes, go ahead.
free. It's never been the land of the free. I can tell you that as somebody who lived overseas for several years. It only looks that way from the inside. My understanding is that it also affects the ability of nurse practitioners to prescribe even for ongoing patients. So
Yes.
and since almost everybody these days gets their primary care from nurse practitioners rather than doctors, it's an effective ban even for those that are been getting treatment, as far as I understood it. Joann, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, so far so good. Yes.
So, so it's not just people who haven't started and are about to start. It's also people who are established patients who are under the care of a nurse practitioner rather than an MD. And so that is an effective block, because people are going to be really shocked when they find out that aspect of it.
Hmm.
Like I said, I don't have an actual MD. I have a nurse practitioner. In fact, I have two of them. One can only see me by telemed, and the other one is retired and pops in every once in a while because she likes me. Um, but I don't have an actual doctor, so that's and this is New York, so you can imagine in Florida that it would, even more people would be seeing nurse practitioners rather than doctors.
How is
So
this constitutional? How can they?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll
this is
address.
clearly unconstitutional.
I will
um,
address that.
yes,
The the situation is one where uh, what they're looking at from their point of view is that this, particularly with regard to minors, that the state has an interest in the welfare of the minors. Now, their weird and warped idea of what the welfare of trans minors is that, oh well, they should be cis, and we should encourage them to be cis, and we should provide state resources to provide things like reparative therapy, the torture, and that's their idea of how to address this. Uh, and the thing is that from their warped point of view, they are actually they think that they are doing this is for the benefit of the children. Meanwhile, parents, who are at least the understanding and accepting parents, know better because they know the actual facts, and they're not working on the so-called fake alternate facts that the opposition does work on, and of course Trump-appointed judges, are the ones that are making these rulings. Though some of them are Bush-appointed judges, but still, it's the same kind of thing.
Fascist
They
judges, exactly. Yeah.
they operate on a totally different set of facts that has nothing to do with reality. And so it's similar to what I used to do when I represented a hospital years ago, where we would occasionally have doctors calling us from the hospital saying we have a baby that was just born and has a yellow jaundice, and we need a blood transfusion because otherwise they're going to die from the high bilirubin count. And so we had canned briefs. We would run to the court, get an order to show cause signed, run to the hospital, serve it on the parents, and then go to the court to have an immediate hearing where the judge would then rule that yes, it's okay for the doctor, over the parents' objections, to give the child the transfusion. Now, with Jehovah's Witnesses, eating blood, which includes transfusions of blood, it means that you'll never go to heaven. And so, that's one of the reasons why the parents were refusing. In some cases, the parents were relieved that they didn't have to make that decision themselves. But in others, they basically they wanted to kill us because we were interfering with their right to dictate how their baby should be treated, and that we're basically making them have to go to hell instead of go to heaven.
Now, with all the Republican emphasis on the rights of parents to decide their children's fate and future, i.e. banning books, all that stuff, how can they then turn around and say, but you are not allowed to let them be trans if they wish to be trans? How do they justify parental rights versus no parental rights when it comes to transgender care?
When they say
well,
parental, yes, go ahead.
let me answer that. As somebody who was born intersex, I can tell you that situation has not improved much. It is considered a medical emergency when a child is born intersex, depending on the condition. And the decisions is not up to the parents at all. The doctors simply do corrective surgery on their own without any thought thought for the fact that it might actually not be a medical emergency because it almost never is. Okay. And with a thought that by the time a child is 3 years old, they know what their gender identity is. And I was one of those cases. They sewed my labia shut, threw a blue blanket over me, and declared me male. But that was 1949. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not much better now. And so, these medical decisions from a legal standpoint is a real slippery area, because again, the parents are almost never consulted about any kind of a intervening surgery on an intersex child, although they may have been asked about it sometimes, and they're never given all the facts. So all of a sudden, that's okay, that's been okay, but a child, having any kind of puberty blockers or whatever, that's a big crisis. And yeah, again,
only in the case of transgender children, because if children need puberty blockers for a different reason, they may access those puberty blockers.
well, yes, because it's the whole trans thing. Okay, it's immoral and fattening. So
Thank you, Ilka Chase. Yes.
yeah, it's a screwed up situation, basically.
Well, now, Joann,
Mm-hmm.
do we have a constitutional leg to stand on?
Well, we should, because we should have a right of personal bodily autonomy. The problem is that the way the current SCOTUS has ruled when they overturned Roe v.
SCOTUS
Wade.
being the Supreme Court, yes.
Yes, the Supreme Court has decided that all those cases that establish the right of privacy that includes this personal bodily autonomy right has been thrown out. And they are free to interpret the Constitution any way they want. When we had case law from the 1950s, from first with regard to birth control for married couples, and then with regard to access to other reproductive health care, and including the right to abortion, and then later cases, clarifying things. All of a sudden, they ripped everything apart and said, "Oh, there is no constitutional right." And so everything that goes all the way back to these initial cases about personal privacy and bodily autonomy has been ripped away from our constitutional law, and everything is a mess now.
Now, why do we have Congress and the Senate and the president when 9 unelected people, appointed people who committed perjury, 6 of them, when they were, examined, we won't touch Roe v. Wade. Oh, no, that's established law. And then they did. That is perjury, isn't it? How can these unelected people presume to set themselves up as, in effect, monarchs, absolute autocratic monarchs, and decide the fate of so many people?
Well, you see, Congress has and the executive, they have a bit of a balancing act to do. What they should have done immediately in the first 2 years of the Biden administration, which they did not do, but they should have. They should have done the nuclear option and about the filibuster. They should have added 2 judicial districts. It's 2 circuits, two extra circuits. They should have then that would bring it up to 15 judicial circuits, and then they should mandate by law that the Supreme Court should consist of 1 justice from each judicial district, from each circuit. And so that would bring the number of justices up to 15, and it would prevent further packing unless someone were to create many more circuits. Now, that's the thing. There's a certain limit on how many circuits that they would be able to provide. So at 15, that would give 6 new appointments that could have been done really quickly, and these decisions would never have been made. And the thing is that we would have had a count on the court then enacting things like judicial standards of conduct to apply to the Supreme Court, which is something Congress can enact because apparently the court can't take care of itself. And if the court decides to resist that, a congressional law providing that and say, oh no, that law violates their rights as justices, well, guess what? Then a constitutional amendment can be proposed, which would then require, but that would have to go through, be ratified by 2/3 of the states anyway. On top of that, but it's still a check on the power of the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court can be checked, but everyone has been too chicken up until now to do that. Now, I would certainly hope that, assuming that the election goes the right way, that the Harris administration would address this immediately, starting in January, assuming that they have enough of a majority in the House and in the Senate. If there's no Democratic majority in the House and the Senate, then the Harris administration won't be able to do any of this. But
well, now, can't the president, with a stroke of her pen, sign the Equal Rights Amendment into law?
No.
No, but with this immunity thing that the court is giving presidents, who knows what might happen? It may not be that the Equal Rights Amendment would be, but an executive order proclaiming equal rights for everyone, with the same force and effect as an amendment might be floated. Who knows? How would the court rule on that, though?
Well, would they have a right to rule on it?
Well, they're gonna
They
rule-
already ruled on presidential immunity.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
immunity means that they can't be prosecuted. That's all.
What you got to understand is that these things are legal for Republicans and not legal for Democrats.
Correct.
That's how the system actually works. Now, I mean, as ludicrous as that sounds, that is functionally how things are set up right now. And
Yes.
if the left does anything, especially towards civil rights, the right will lose its collective mind. I guarantee you. So that's the
All right, let's
situation.
say, please God, let's say Kamala wins, and the Electoral College actually lets her win. Can she, in any way, shape, or form, counter the Supreme Court, the fascist Supreme Court, and allow bodily autonomy for abortion, for transgender care, for birth control, for whatever? Can
Mhm.
that happen?
I would like to see her do all the outrageous things that the right is accusing her of wanting to do.
No,
and then
but
have
quite
the Supreme-
seriously, no. I don't
Seriously,
mean...
no, I mean, no, seriously. And then to have the Supreme Court deal with it and have to deal with the hypocrisy of what they did to the rulings.
Yes, and
they-
no Democrat would ever win again, so we can't do
But
that.
pack the
No,
court
that's
first
not
if we can.
True.
We should
We
pack
have
the
to be
court first if we
sensible.
can.
People don't like having their rights taken away. And this Supreme Court has taken away a fundamental basic right of privacy, of bodily autonomy. 2 young women who have a lot of power because they have careers, they make money, they vote, and young people vote now,
Mhm.
certainly will in this election.
And
Do you
women
think
outnumber
that young
men.
people, what? Do you think that young people will elect Kamala and will be saved at the last minute?
Well, I'm hoping
Interesting. Okay.
young women,
Interesting.
yes.
I saw a story on that last night on MSNBC, where they had somebody saying that the Trumpies are going after the youngest voters, youngest male voters.
Yes.
And they're doing it on the gaming platforms and whatnot, and they're doing the whole incel thing, okay? Basically pushing the fact that women are trying to take over the universe, and which I have no problem with whatsoever. But anyway, they're basically pushing all those gynophobic and instincts that a
Well,
lot of
in
these young men have, especially if
Trump's
they
true
haven't been paid.
terms, basically they're saying, as Trump would say it, listen, you want to get abroad, you want to get laid, do away with women's rights, that kind of
Yes,
thing.
Yeah,
that's exactly
pretty
what
much.
that's exactly what they're doing. Yes.
Yeah,
You
and they're
know,
doing it. Yep, and they're doing it in the gaming forums and places where these 18 to 24-year-old males basically
Who cannot
conjugate.
get laid, right?
and
And a
and
lot of them are not getting
Except by
laid
their
because
hand,
the
yeah.
women are getting their act together and,
well,
basically,
a part of that
right?
has to do with the fact that the Democrats are actually contributing to this
How?
particular thing because the Democrats are focusing on women, minorities, LGBTQ people, but they're not focusing at all on young men. And as a matter of fact, even on a Democratic website, they talk about who we're here for, and they talk about we're here for this, we're here for that. We're nothing about young white men.
But the world has been all about young men since
We
the
know
dawn
that.
of time.
Yeah, we know
We know
that.
that. We all know that. But the problem is that the young white men don't know that.
Yeah,
And it's kind of like how people will feel reverse discrimination. They say, oh, reverse discrimination. Like Alan Backey, way back when I was in law school, he thought he should have gotten into the law school, but because of affirmative action, he was denied a spot
Because he was white?
because he was white. Yeah, so he
yeah.
claimed reverse discrimination, and the Supreme Court correctly held that he didn't really have a case. Um, and the thing is that that the Supreme Court today might not hold that way. They might hold yes,
Well,
it
they
is
did away
reverse.
with the voting rights bill, those bastards, which had been
Yeah,
in effect since 1965.
Oh,
They did away
first of
with
all,
affirmative action. So, I mean, these people are monsters.
yeah.
Why doesn't someone stop these people?
I
Well,
want to interject some reality here, and that is even if we manage to get control of the Congress, both the Senate and the House, and we pass some really heavy duty civil rights bills, they will be eroded within 30 or 40 years by the right. They've done it every single time that's happened. They did it with voting rights, they've done it with women's rights, they, you name
LGBT
it.
rights? Do you
LGBT
think,
rights.
let me just posit this. Do you think that if they try to do away with gay marriage, and gay marriage is so much about property and all that, all the rich white gay guys who are married, happy, and, have like 3 houses, a country house, a townhouse, and whatever house, cat house, you know, that will be the step too far
it
because
No,
depends
now
on
they're messing with rich white gay men, and that the rich white
okay.
gay men with all their money and all their power will not stand for it. What do you think?
it
I
depends on
think
how
that they took away the rights of bodily autonomy from a majority of people in the United States because the women are a majority in this country.
In
Okay,
the
and
world.
they've gotten away with it. So to think that they couldn't pull it on gay men and not get away with it is
No, but
being naive.
rich white gay men who
They
seem
don't
to
have the
have a lot of
power.
power because of
They
their
don't
money,
have the power.
race, and all that.
They
the
don't
rich
have
white
the
gay men
power.
can go to the EU and be married in the EU.
Would that
Yeah.
stand up here?
No, but they would be married in the EU and they would live in the EU. They're rich and white. They can relocate anywhere they want.
All right, let me ask you this. If you're a trans child and you live in Texas or Florida or wherever you live, one of those states, Arkansas, Ohio,
Tennessee.
and you go to New York, get a year's supply of hormones, and then go back to Texas. You come here once a year and get your hormones and take it home. Is that illegal? Can you then unfold as a trans person in, say, Texas, having got your hormones and medical care here in New York once a year?
Well,
Under Texas law, no.
and the Trump administration, if they do have a new Trump administration, their plan is to have the Department of Health and Human Services, uh, enforce these state bans and track anyone who receives care in another state, so that they can be tattled on back to their original state, so that they can be prosecuted for it, for whether it's abortion, whether it's trans medical care, whatever. Their plan is to use the power of the federal government to enforce these discriminatory state laws extraterritorially, basically kind of like a modern version of the Dred Scott decision.
Precisely.
So, do you think there will be a civil war if Trump manages to steal the election?
I'm not
Because
going to go there.
we, the people, will not stand for another Trump
I'm
administration.
not going to stand for it, but the thing is that a civil war is something that may be a little going a little too far.
Well,
I think,
revolution then.
yeah, maybe a revolution. But you know,
I-
why don't can we go back to the to that decision that we started with, because
Yes.
we want to talk a little bit about the animus of the
Excuse me. How much time do we have? 2 minutes.
Oh, well, let me give you a couple just a couple of things.
Make it quick.
Yeah, things that they were saying. They referred to us as good riddance when they were passing the bill. They referred to us as demons and imps, and that we are mutants living among us on planet Earth. They all sorts of things like that. That's how they think of us when they pass these laws to discriminate against
Yeah,
us.
but that's how they think of their own women too. So
yes,
there you go.
exactly. So yeah, witches. That's it.
Oh, okay. So anyway, we're out of time.
I'm an actual witch, so
Yes.
Okay,
Don't
good. My guests, they're not my guests. They're members of the triad. Are Cathryn Platine, transgender and feminist activist, and New York State politician and attorney Joann Prinzivalli. I'm Diana Montford. I love you a lot. I'll see you next time. This is a once a month triad. We are doing it every month, probably in perpetuity, discussing all things trans and LGBTQ, in addition to my usual show. So there you go. Love you a lot. See you next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.